Hi guys, I'm back, and I guess you saw from the previous photos I just did a little flash animation with a few photos of this thing going together, legs primed, and cut in the paint where they tuck under the table and everything. But I got the main shaft in here, and this is the one with the eccentric cut on the end that you saw in the previous videos. The eccentric is on this side, and the other side is concentric. But what I did, the shaft is all scarred up from people grabbing it with vice grips and making this adjustment. I actually cut that hex in there. It's just for a 3/4 inch wrench. It just makes life a little easier, and you don't have to booger up the saw to make an adjustment. But I was going to go ahead and grab a wrench. I'm going to park you right about here. And I want you to look down at the end where the saw is just sitting on that pipe. And I'm just going to give this shaft a little bit of a turn and watch what happens to the upper in relationship to the lower. So that's 1/8 of a turn. There's 1/4 of a turn. And we're coming up on 1/2 a turn. You can see it's moving over to the upper's moving over to the left. And it's moving even more. And they're at 1/2 a turn, so that was pretty substantial. I mean, that's a pretty big adjustment. What you're trying to do here is get the saw blade running parallel with the table, and that's what that adjustment is. And it's the very first one you do. You're going to want to do that before you start messing with the squareness of your vise and making the adjustments there with those bolts and tipping the blade and your blade tracking and all that. But you need to get the saw running parallel first with the table, and just thought I'd show you that. We're still due for quite a bit of paint. I'm going to leave this thing together and just paint it assembled. I do what I call a cut-in, where I take a little bit of spray paint and put it in between so I don't have a corrosion issue like the gear drive. I want to get the gear drive in, so I'm going to cut that in. And I want to get the driven wheel in down there. And then the main paint will just be on a day that's warmer than today. It's like 45 here today, and nothing's drying. So, like I said, I hate paint. But that's some progress. And we're doing good. I'm pretty pleased with the results so far. And it's getting big enough now where I can't even get it off the bench by myself. It's getting pretty heavy. By the time we get all the cast iron back on it, and we're gonna have to put it down on the floor with a chain hoist. All right, but it'll stay on the bench until it's complete. And here we are at the end of the day. Got the drive and the drive wheel in down on that side, and we've got the driven in down on this side, and all the internals are just pre-painted with a rattle can. I'm gonna actually shoot it with a spray gun with all the exteriors and everything, but I'm going to wait till we have a nice day to do that. But the counterbalance is in. I'm lifting that with one finger. All right, so we're getting there, and I still got all those shrouds I still got to deal with and all those other things. But I've got the drive mounted. I stuck a blade in it real quick and checked the table. It's just an old crappy blade, but I stuck it in there to check parallel. So we're doing good. Morning, everybody. We got a clear day. No rain finally. It was raining all day yesterday. But it is cold. For Southern California, that's pretty cold. We're going to go up to the shop and futz around here this morning a little bit. And see what we got some paint on the saw yesterday. I was just grateful that we got it on without running it terribly. It was saggy, but not completely runny. I don't care how long it takes to dry. 6, 8, 12 days. Don't care. It's about 7:30, just barely sticking up there. You can see Cucamonga Peak, and we got a little snow on it. The local mountains in the canyon, that's Cucamonga Canyon over there. And there's no snow on those local hills. But I've seen snow down to these hills right here behind the house in the past. Yeah, just think you can see much of the valley. It's a little hazed over this morning. Huh, haze. That's what we call smog. We try to find a nice name for smog, so we call it haze. And here we are again. We packed everything in from the outside last night because of the rain. But here's the saw. We got a few coats of paint on it yesterday. And it's just barely tacked up. It's got a skin on it, but at least it's all one color. Not quite so hideous looking. What we're going to do today is work on the shrouds, and I'll probably just shoot a photo series of those. There's the drive got put in, and the take up. But yeah, we got a good coat of paint on it. I'm going to run it back outside. Hopefully the sun will hit it and help bake this stuff a little bit. That, I'm sitting on a toolbox that's on wheels, so I can roll that out pretty darn easy. So I'll get that out in the sun, get it baking while I'm working on the shrouds. The shrouds, you can see the condition of those. They're just rusty, nasty things. And I got to do a little body work on them and sanding and cleaning, priming, painting. With any luck, we'll get done. With those, I was talking to a friend of mine, Randy. He's up in Northern California right now, a professional painter. And man, I was complaining about this paint. I just called him for a little rant. He said, "What's the matter with you? Go get some Japan." I go, "What the hell are you talking about, Japan?" He goes, "For oil base in cold weather, you use Japan." And this is Japan. And it accelerates, says speeds the drying of oil-based paint, enamel, and varnish. And it worked pretty good. It's brown in color, so when you have to use it sparingly. When you put it in, it'll actually change your color, especially if you got a white or something like that. And you only use 2 capfuls in every quart, so this stuff's going to last a long time. I only got a couple little sags in it. You can probably see right here. It's not really even considered a run. It's just kind of a little sag. But this is triple coated. And I hope it sticks good. I hope the Japan isn't going to give it an adhesion problem. But that's that. All right, we're back. And I got the sheet metal all sanded and did a couple of repairs on the belt guard over here. You can see I had to get in there and tack weld that. The spot welds are breaking loose. But for you sheet metal guys out there, I want you to take a real close look at the sheet metal work that went into this thing. Look at that curve. That was die formed and stamped. Look over there, how that's put together. And this top is all one piece that comes over and curves around. So they did a step break here to make the curve and drawn all the way across there. You just got to appreciate that kind of stuff. In this corner, here's the die form corner, and it shows it spot welded in. And here it is again on the other cover. But in the modern age, this would just get vacuum formed in a piece of plastic, and it wouldn't go to this kind of trouble. And you just got to appreciate what went into the sheet metal here. But anyways, back to our main topic. The paint just went away. Since I put a DA sander to it, dual action sander, it just went down to, the paint just disintegrated and went away. So I'm going to shoot these with red oxide to give them a rust preventative. And get these red first, and then I've got all the other little, there's a couple blade guards there. I'll shoot those. Those are just sheet metal, so I'm going to shoot those with some red oxide. A little counterweight. It's a balancing weight they did to add mass to one side of the machine, and it's actually spring loaded. That's 2 pieces, and it slides up and down this rod to give you counterweight on the saw to get the right kind of weight on your cut. But yeah, I'm going to get that sheet metal primed and moving on. Just a quick tip. I don't usually do tips, but this thing had some bad creases. You can see a crease right here, and this had a really nasty crease down this backside here. If you're going to pound on it, do it very carefully, and don't do it in the air, and don't just bang on it with nothing backing it up. I'll show you what I do. I use a steel table, and then I use a rubber mat. This is very thin but very dense. This is 1/8 inch rubber. You lay it flat on the table, and that's the tool right there. It's just a little rubber dead blow, and when you hit square. You're gonna end up with hammer marks, but you need something behind it. You want to hit it on the high side. If your sheet metal is dished like this, bring your hammer down like this on the rubber mat. If you did it on sheet metal, or you put the sheet metal straight on a steel table, you're never going to get the dish out of it. You need something with a little bit of give. A lot of sheet metal guys use a leather mat. I use this heavy neoprene rubber, and to back up my work, to do any sheet metal work. I mean, it's not perfect, but then again, it's not a Lexus. You know, we're not going to Bondo the thing. We're not going to make it just absolutely 100% perfect. I just wanted all the big creases and the big dents and stuff out of it. So those pieces there get hauled outside on the hangers and sprayed, brought back in, and let hang to dry. I am going to use my Japan dryer. I'm a believer. Thank you, Randy. All right, I'll shoot a little more later. Here's a couple more shots. We got a red oxide on with our Japan dryer in there. It's actually drying. It's about 52 degrees outside, and it's starting to flash. I sprayed these maybe an hour ago. But the tin's painted, and the belt guards, and a couple other little miscellaneous things. Those are the guide roller holders there, and I got the guide rollers done here. They're painted and got fresh bearings on them, all cleaned up. That's that old motor. It's actually sitting there running right now. The leads on it are in really bad shape. And what I can tell by looking at it, these are the old, it's got the old oil caps on it. So that tells me it probably has bronze bushings in it. And let that thing spin down. Starting switch is working, but there's the thrust on it. And it's an old Howell Electric Motor Company. So that's, I'm guessing that's the Bell and Howell company. They used to make, actually used to make movie cameras and all kinds of electronics. It's a 1/3 horse. It's got separate nameplates. It's got one nameplate for 60 hertz. It's got a whole separate nameplate here for 50 hertz. And at 50 hertz, she's going to spin at 1430 and make, oh, please focus. Come on, focus. There you go. It's going to make 1/3 of a horse. And over here, it's still rated at 1/3 of a horse, but she spins at 1735 at 60 hertz. So this is the US version here. We run 60 cycles here in the United States. But that's kind of an interesting motor with the little oilers on it. So I'm going to take it apart, and the only thing that has me concerned is the leads, and I'll get another good look at the leads. If I can shorten them up and make that connection again safely, I'll go ahead and use it. I'm kind of partial to this motor, so it's built-in thermal overload, and I don't need an external overload. But that's nickel-plated wire with kind of a antique braid on it, which has me concerned. I don't want to just tape it up. It's kind of Mickey Mouse, but you can see I've got it temped in here to a cord. I'm going to start taking this apart, and I still haven't decided what I'm going to do. I've got a brand new Dayton half horse I could stick on there, same RPM, and give that little saw a little more grunt. But I'm going to evaluate this a little farther. Let me get it apart and I'll show it to you again. And I'm back, and we've got the motor apart. And I was right, it is a bronze bushing motor. And there's the bushings there. And I had suspected that we lost a thrust. When you can see here, there's two bronze washers on the extreme outside. In the center, there's a wave washer. It's made to keep pressure on the two. That's just a stack that goes there, and it keeps pressure on it. And this is the non-operating side, or the switch side of the motor. This is where all the wiring is. But on the other side, which is the shaft side or the drive side, I found this. This washer was badly cupped and jammed tight against this shoulder. This one's still nice and flat, but you can see what's left of the wave washer. It just disintegrated, and it was down inside next to the bearing and chewing things up. It hadn't gotten so bad that the actual fan blade was hitting, but it was failing. And when you started the motor, you could feel the polarity of the motor pull it to its natural center, but it's still quite a bit of thrust on the motor. The bearings are still tight, and I'm thinking, just for fun, this is my idea of fun, if I get these on the lathe and cut out these bosses here and here, I can cut ball bearings into them and eliminate the bronze bushings and the oilers and all these thrust bearings and everything. I've already measured these shafts here and here, and this will have to be chucked up in the lathe and cut. The shaft will have to be cut down, and this shaft will have to be cut down to accept the bearing. And it's already got centers on it there on the end. Got centers there and a center there, and we need to chuck it up in the lathe, get it true, and make the cut, and get these two shafts of a millimeter dimension. Bearings nowadays are all millimeter ID and millimeter OD. As for the wiring, I've got it over here on the vise. They were badly degraded where they were exposed to oxygen and air and things out here and oil. But when you get deeper into the motor, all this wiring is in very good shape. Starting switch is okay. I can just run a piece of sandpaper through that and clean up that starting switch. Had the old friction tape around this. This was a soldered connection. The capacitor is soldered in. The wiring going to that's in good shape. So if I just change these leads, just solder in some new leads, and I've got some nickel wire I can use. This is all really old school stuff, the old braided cloth wiring. And there's your thermal overload. It's got a reset switch there. But yeah, I think I'm going to restore this just for fun and put ball bearings in it and update it. I might even leave the oilers on it just for a joke. The oilers are here on the end bells. That's an oiler right there. It's just a little flip cap right there where you put a few drops of oil in it to lubricate the bronze bushing. Inside the top part of that bearing, you can see there's a felt pad, And the bearing, actually, they cut a section of the bearing out and drop a felt pad in there, and the felt gets soaked with oil and keeps a steady supply of oil on the bushing. And that's the way they used to do things. But I think I can cut these end bells and bore them out and get them so they accept bearings. It's the same thing here on this side. Here's your oiler. And when they're done, they just snap a cap in there to cover the end so it doesn't spew oil all over the place. And that hole in the bottom is actually a drain, so it's an oil to waste system. They just put a few drops of oil in there, it flushes through the bearing, and then sits there and leaks out the bottom. And that's the way they did things before there was such a thing as ball bearings. But that's this motor, and I think just for fun, we're going to put modern bearings in it and bring an old motor back to life. My only other alternative is that motor there. That's a brand new Dayton. That is a half horse. Dayton isn't what it used to be, but that just doesn't feel right to me. Leave a comment on the channel and let me know what your thoughts are. If you'd be interested in seeing me modernize a motor and make a silk purse out of a sow's ear. But that's the final step in our bandsaw project.